Om Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Giri Yat Kripatam Maham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. So we stopped here at number 66. Nasti buddhira yuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayatah shantirashantasya kutah sukham. Um, and then 67. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmanon vidhiyate tadasya harati prajnam vayurnavam ivam bhasi. The senses are so powerful, indriyanam hicharatam, of the moving senses, of mobile, moving, yan manach, which mind is there anuvidhiyate, following them or stuck to them. If the mind is following after senses all the time, whatever they are providing for the mind is driven by the senses. Like in the animal world, they are totally their mind is so weak, it is totally driven by the senses. Yeah? Whatever they hear, whatever they see, they react constantly. They don't have time to really reflect and think what it is, what I heard or I saw, and decide. Man has this capacity to stop himself, to disengage from the senses and decide, actually. But he is also hardly using that capacity or uses it in a way which is um, which is close to that, what is good for me in this, yeah, which is even worse than in the animal kingdom, because there they are naturally kind of driven by the perception. Here he is using that power for his own advantage. So when the mind is attached to the strongly moving senses, tad asya harati prajnam. So that carries away the understanding or the consciousness, which is viewing everything objectively. Vayur navam ivam bhasi, as the wind carries away the boat which is not tied up. So again, this is the illusion of this. The bow is to be tied up under control, and this the boat is carried away by the wind because it is not in control. So it is just on the water, and then when the wind comes, it blows away the boat. So Indriyas are so strong that they can take away, snatch, snap, or pick up our mind and carry as a boat on the waters by the wind. They are as strong as the wind. Arjuna Uvacha, and Arjuna says, oops, I jumped. Did I read right thing? Yes, it is here. Tasmad yasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashach indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratishtita. Therefore, O mighty armed, that is Krishna speaking to Arjuna, whose indriyas, whose senses are under control from all sides, under control, under constant control, from every corner, from every look, from every perspective, sarvashach, from every side, in every occasion, in every moment, indriyani indriyarthebhyah, withdrawn and controlled from the object of sense, that they are not allowed to rush naturally after any object of sense. Tasya prajna pratishtita, his intelligence sits firmly founded in calm self-knowledge. Again, the same story. Sorry for this. Therefore, O mighty armed one who has utterly restrained the excitement of the senses by their objects, the excitement of the senses by their objects, his intelligence sits firmly founded in the calm self-knowledge. It's from the point of view of the ordinary human being, is a very difficult proposition, nearly impossible, yeah? To control your senses, to control your inputs of the senses constantly. So to be aware of what is coming in and choose whether you want it or not. Constant control of whatever happens. Some knock onto your doors from some desire, from some impression, from some memory, from something else. You have to choose whether you want it in or not. But with time, with practice, it becomes possible. Really. So Krishna is proposing something which is doable. Yeah. It looks like totally impossible for especially for the young spirit. Yeah. For the youngsters, it's how can you control this? It's like the wind. It's like blows away everything. You have this energy, you have this drive, you have this passion within yourself. You can't really stop thinking about it, feeling it, wanting it, but you can. You can
Is
make
this the pratyahara piece of yoga,
absolutely.
pulling in the senses?
Yeah, withdrawing senses from the object of sense and controlling them and allowing only that what you allow. To be in control what you think, what you feel, where you go and what you will do. It is doable. It looks like nearly impossible. I know for any psychotherapy or psychologist, they don't even think about it. Yeah? Or maybe they do. Or maybe I'm overestimating them. Yes,
Sorry,
Zifkir.
I have a question. The word pratichita, cheetah is mine, cheetah? Is a
Where do you see it?
composed word, pratichita?
Where do you see it?
Prajna pratichita.
Pratishtita.
Pratishtita.
Pratishtita is established.
Pratishtita.
Yes, firmly established. Prati against sthita, staying against, literally. Can withstand, withstanding. He is consciousness which operates within his objectives, within his objective action, can withstand any oppression.
And exists the word pratichita? Is another word or is not? Doesn't? It's not.
Pratishtita, this is the last word, yeah, this one.
Yes. But there is another word. Sounds like pratichita or not? It's a wrong pronunciation, isn't it?
Uh, I, I,
Pratichita.
I don't know pratichitta. I know chitta. Chitta is consciousness, which is like a memory, inbuilt subconscious memory. All the storage of all our impressions, we spoke about it, yeah. So yoga chitta vritti nirodha. This is the definition of yoga when the rotation of chitta stops becoming automatic in our impressions, in our reactions. So we become aware of what is coming in, whether it comes from the subconscious mind or from the outside or from anywhere. So we are in control. And for that, pratyahara is needed, as Radha mentioned. Pratyahara is withdrawing the senses from the object of sense. Also looks very difficult proposition because why should we do it? That means we are losing interest in life, as it were, because once you are not enjoying the objects of sense, what are you here to do at all? Yeah? So this is a big question, if not to enjoy the objects of sense. Yes, there is much to do, much more than just enjoying the objects of sense.
I
Yes?
have another question. And Nigritani is good pronunciation. Nigritani. You say?
Nigrihitani. Yes.
Nigritani. Oh.
It is long E, yes. They
Nigritani.
controlled,
It's
held,
control. It's not
yes.
attached. It's not attached. It's control.
Literally, grih is to take, yeah, to seize upon, inwardly to seize upon. Whose indriyas are seized upon inwardly by someone, his consciousness is firmly withholding any oppression or can control anything which comes to him.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's great. Please ask these questions, nitty-gritties about the words, because we translate them one way, but they have many more connotations which are not visible for those who do not study Sanskrit. Yes. Mm. And now he comes to interesting definition, which we mentioned already before. Yanisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagarti samyami. Yasyam jagrati bhutani sanisha pashyato munehe. That higher being which is to all creatures a night. Why the higher being is a night for all creatures? Because they do not perceive it. When you start speaking about God, about light, everybody falls asleep. What? It's some kind of far away abstraction. Something like, okay, it's very nice for, as somebody said interestingly about my classes in the Veda, that they are very good before sleep. Yeah, and I have them in the morning, and the whole group agreed immediately. It's so good to fall asleep afterwards. So it works in some way because it brings some abstraction, some high, lofty knowledge, which calms the mind. Our mind cannot really perceive it in other way only through this calmness. And when it becomes calm and peaceful, that state it knows only as sleep. So it's very normal for the mind to fall asleep and to drag the whole being to sleep when it is becoming aware of some higher, loftier reality. Makes sense. Even Pavitra was asking the mother, what is this? When I'm going into this meditation, I fall asleep. And mother says, sleep. You are more open when you sleep than when you are awake. So, because she was there, she was present as a force, of course. She wanted to take charge, hold of him. So he would not resist if he would fall asleep. We
Well,
see
and I
this.
think she also explained, I was just hearing the other day, she was also explaining to a young girl that would always fall asleep in her presence when she's talking. And the young girl says, well, maybe I just shouldn't come anymore because I'm constantly falling asleep. And the mother said, no, no, that is exactly the reason you should come, because when you fall asleep, the mind is no longer debating, is no longer judging, is no longer comparing and contrasting. It's gotten out of the way so this higher knowledge can sink in. So she said, please sleep away. So,
Yeah,
absolutely.
beautiful, beautiful. This is the mother. This is typical, yes, mother. And that answer to Pavitra is also of the same kind. So this kind of falling asleep of the mind and not resisting the presence of the force, and he mind falls asleep because of that presence of the force, which wants to calm, and calms the mind, and then we mm, we I wanted to say something I forgot, but yes, right, it's in the same direction. So this kind of relaxing and allowing this higher consciousness to act upon you, not just falling asleep. Many people, when they go for meditation, you can see how they start snoring. And in Matrimandira also, people run to them and say, don't snore. Okay. And then they sit again. This is really funny part. But they fall asleep because their mind got relaxed, finally opened up, and there is no other way to be in that state, yeah, for them. Okay. But Sri Aurobindo, he tells to Pavitra a very interesting thing for this. Pavitra asks him, I fall asleep in meditation. And he says, you have to fall asleep without falling asleep. And that is meditation. It is as if you have to step beyond this curtain, yeah, become totally relaxed and open, and at the same time to be aware and to be present in consciousness. And that would be the liberation. Yes, Marta.
Yes, the options are sinking down into the subconscious or
Mm.
rising into to the higher reaches of the subliminal. So with the mind silenced in sleep, um, that's just a wonderful access for the divine to be able to work within the consciousness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what the whole point is, right? So Yanisha Sarva Bhutanam Tasyam Jagarti Samyami. What is the night for all the beings? In that night, in that calmness, the yogin, the Samyami, the master, is awake. Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani, and in what all the beings are awake, waking up. Sanisha Pashyato Munehe. That is the night for the awakened being. Because they are driven and they're drawn to the object of sense and to the self enjoyment and egoistic enjoyment and pity and desires. And that is becoming very boring for him. So it becomes the night for him. He doesn't see the point why they are so excited to go for this party or that party or something.
Vladimir Sherbrinda apparently used to meditate with his eyes open.
Yes.
He
Right.
need to close his eyes, as you're talking earlier about,
Right.
that sleeping without, being awake without sleeping. What you said, what Sherbrinda said, is exactly what he did. He was, to the ordinary person observing everything, he's awake because he has his eyes open. But he was in meditation.
Absolutely.
His eyes open.
And you can see also that he was really meditating. If you look into his eyes, you will see that he is within. Yeah? And by the way, this particular type of meditation with open eyes, he brought to all of us. I meditated for years with open eyes. You can meditate. It's a presence. Actually, it's a presence. You don't need to close your eyes. The presence may grow within you and above you and press down, and you can stay with open eyes. It's a very pleasant state also to keep connection with the world and see it from that particular presence. Yeah, it's a quite thing which is known in the circles of Sri Aurobindo's meditators, not always to close their eyes. Okay, then the next shloka 70. There are only two shlokas or three left, and we are closing the chapter 2. Apuryamanam achala pratishtham samudramapav pravishanti yadvat tad vat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashantim apnoti nakama kami. This is the definition which I was mentioning, not the one who desires the desires. Kama kamin. This is a very interesting term. Not desiring the objects of sense, but the desires. That is the trap, to desire the desires. That's what our modern civilization is trying to recreate. They want to make us desire the desires constantly. Yeah. So apuryamanam, he attains peace. Yeah, sashantim apnoti, into whom all desires enter as waters into the sea, an ocean, a wide being and consciousness, which is ever being filled. yet ever motionless. Not he who, like troubled and muddy waters, is disturbed by every little inrush of desire. So we have to become like an ocean which accepts every input. Every desire can flow in because it has no impact on us. We are like an ocean. We can accept it. As Sri Aurobindo experienced his um, liberation, it was an interesting description. He says it's like the mind becomes so calm, the peace is so deep that whatever thoughts enter into that field, it's like the birds in the windless air. They're just crossing through the windless air, and you can look at them. They do not disturb your peace. So the same here. The waters flow into the ocean. You stay the ocean. You allow, you are not fighting with desires. You are not pushing them away because it would be a mistake, actually. Though before he spoke about control, and I was saying it is possible, but this thing is much better to rise above, to widen the scope of your consciousness and let them flow. You just don't follow them. Let them be. They just flow and disappear in the ocean of peace. And that is the liberation, basically. And these desires will be still there because once experienced, once they were given the right to be, they can be forever. As Sri Aurobindo speaks in Savitri, yes? Once they got this right to exist, were experienced, they have the right to be forever, somewhere, in some Akashic records, in some place. They can come back to you anytime. It depends how you meet them. And mother, in already when she was in 1971 in Agenda, she says, "You can't imagine what is coming to me." That was a surprise for me. My old ancient, those from the childhood, from the youth, things and desires, they come back. They are knocking into your doors again. They want to live again. So how would you meet them? As the ocean, or as the one who has muddy waters, immediately disturbed by them, wanting to realize them? So that's the only difference.
Sorry, Vladimir. This is why they told the mental images are permanent.
I'm not sure in which context you are taking it from, but everything which was, yes, once lived has the right to be forever.
Mhm.
This is something to. It's kind of bad news for us, and good news at the same time, because we know that it will come. It depends how we will meet it. What will happen? Will they disturb us or not? And the disturbance can be very powerful. And Mother speaks on perseverance. We are creating film on perseverance. Maybe soon it will be done, and we will see it on what it is, how many times, and 1,000 times the same thing can come in a little different disguise, in a little different perspective and a little different pretext. It can come in again and again, and you have to meet it again and again. And what will you do with all that? Until you're totally free from every angle from it, that you allow it to flow for its own cause, you will not be able to get rid of it. There are other ways to deal with it. Mother speaks about it, but they are much more painful. That is what psychotherapy does, is to find that thing which is disturbing you all the time, take it, hold it, and bring it to light and hold within the light until it burns, until it is getting totally transformed. But it can be a very painful process. And you have to have a very powerful will. You have to be quite disturbed by that already to decide to do it, this kind of operation, yeah, this surgery on yourself. But that is also another method. Okay, number 71. Vihaya kaman yach sarvan pumanscharati nisprihach nirmamo nirahamkarach sashanti madhigachati, who abandons all desires and lives and acts free from longing. Can you imagine such a freedom? Freedom from all desires and all longings. Who lives and acts free from all longings. Who has no I or mine. Who has distinguished his individual ego in the one and lives in that unity. He attains to the great peace. So word by word, Vihaya, having left Kaman, the Sarvan, all the desires, Hu Yach, Puman, the man who Charati Nixpreha, who moves without any, again, longing, expectation, Nirmamo, Nirmama, who has no mama anymore, who doesn't say my, me, myself, and I. Nirahamkara, who doesn't think aham, I. Doesn't think about himself, doesn't think about his possessions, his engagements, his involvements. Sashanti mati gacchati. He attains to the peace. It reminds me of that story from Mahabharata where Yudhishthira asks, you remember Yudhishthira was asked by the spirit of lake, what is that losing which you lose nothing? What is that losing which you lose nothing? And he answered right, the desire. The desire is that losing which you lose nothing. Everything stays. You are there, spirit is there, being is there, life is there, life which is much deeper, much more beautiful than the life of the desire. Esha Brahmi sthiti partha, nainam prapya vimohyati, sthitvasyam antakalepi, Brahma nirvanam richati. This is the state of Brahman. This is the Brahmi sthiti, firm standing in the spirit, O Partha, O Arjuna. Nainam prapya vimuhyati, having reached that state of Brahman, one is not bewildered anymore. Sthitvasyam, and staying in it, antakalepi, at the end of his life, Brahma nirvanam richati, he attains to the silent Brahman, to the Brahma nirvanam, to the nirvana of the spirit. So this is the end of the chapter. Chapter 2. If you have some questions, something you would like to share, please go ahead.
It's very curious, this sentence that says, in the end of the life, if you get this, you burn all your bad karma. So simple, no?
Yeah. Yeah. And the end of life, it seems to be very important for our reincarnations. It is at the end of life that we actually make the decision for next reincarnation. It is at the end of life that we have this film. Many people report about this film, yeah, we see the most important moments of our life. It's like the whole life is running in front of our eyes, especially those people who fell from the top of the building somewhere. When they were flying, the whole film, the whole life was in front of their eyes, and they survived, and they could tell us that, you see, I saw the whole life. Why that seeing of the whole life before we leave the body? Because in that moment we have to make a decision. Soul makes decision very fast. What we are here, what would be the next engagement, what is next to achieve, what is next to realize. So here, at the end of his time, when he is staying in that state, in the higher state, yeah, without desires, without claiming of any, and without longing, without making claims for him being something or somebody, free from any expectation and preference, then at the end of his life, that is something very decisive for the next reincarnation. He can be freed. He can be moving into the Brahma Nirvana state. So in the next life, he will be born at will, not as a compulsory birth, as Sri Aurobindo explains. We are born compulsory here without even knowing that we are born. We're just born and we have to live. We have to survive somehow. But there will be a choice made, conscious choice, to be born or not, to stand back for some time, to stay within the blissful state and then to come, or to come whenever there is a call to do something. The divine work is to be done. Then we are called upon and we come back, but willingly, consciously, which is very different. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
What
Thank
is
you.
Nainam in 272? Has it any relation with eyes or is it something different?
Na enam prapya vimohyati. Enam sthitim. This state. Yeah? Na vimohyati. He is not bewildered, having reached this state. Enam is here the accusative case from pronoun this. This state in the feminine gender. That's why long are, because sthiti is feminine.
Oh,
If
thank
you
you.
ask about
Yeah.
grammar.
And what about 271 where there is sarvanupuma
Yes, kaman sarvan, all the kamas. Yes, accusative plural. Puman is nominative, charati. Puman charati sandhi. Puman is moving, nixprihach, without longing, without expectation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. So, what's the plan? I think we got quite a portion of this already. Maybe we stay with this because this is the end of the chapter. And we don't need to rush into another chapter immediately. We keep it with us, what we understood today. Can you just share some thoughts, what you understood from this chapter today? It would be interesting to hear from you. Something. You can switch on microphone and talk. That would be lovely. If you want to, of course.
The abandonment of desire is certainly so important. And it brings to mind so many folk tales about Indian folk tales about the abandonment of desire. I remember there's one, which I'm not a good storyteller, but it relates to there being a jar that was almost full of gold coins. Perhaps someone else in this group will remember the story better, but I think there was a god who brought a jar full of gold coins to a poor couple, and he asked them to keep it for him and safeguard it. And the couple thought, well, just maybe we'll fill it up a little more, just fill it a little more. So they scrimped and saved, and they sacrificed more valuable things in their life for being able to save up and get these gold coins to fill up the top of the jar. And when the god came back, and I wish I could remember who this was, but he said to them, oh, I see what you've been doing here. And, you know, the jar of desire can never be filled, because every time they would fill it or think they'd filled it, there would always be some space.
Yeah, it's
Always
interesting.
room for more. And desire, as we know, is like that. You know, and until you really get past it, surrendering it and surrendering your will to the divine, you're always going to be wanting something. And it's never, you're never completely satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
So that liberation must be wonderful. And I know we all aspire for that. I was reading someone's Facebook post the other day, in which there was someone who was in the audience he was a writer, and I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but he was in the audience, having gone to hear some billionaire speak. And he said, oh, well, I have something which he doesn't have. And his friend asked him, what is that? And he said, enough.
Oh, so lovely. So lovely. Right.
That reminds me of a related story. And Vladimir, with your permission, if I can quickly.
Please take your time.
So this is about an Indian king who used to enjoy all the luxuries and a very opulent lifestyle. But he was neither happy and nor was he content. And one day when he was looking at one of his servants who did not by any means have the same wealth, but enjoying his job, singing, merrily performing his duties, he was wondering, and he asked the servant saying, what is it that keeps you happy? So the servant was a bit intimidated seeing the king directly talk to him, but he had to reply. And he said, I have very limited means. I just have a small roof over our heads. And with the salary that you give me, I make enough to fill my stomach for that day. So I have really nothing more to aspire for, because I think I have everything. So the king was in a dilemma. He did not understand how the servant can be happy with literally nothing in terms of luxury. So he asked his wise minister to help him understand the situation. Sorry, it's raining. I'll just shift inside. Sorry about that.
Sure. Great.
So, bring my laptop. So the minister said the reason why the servant is happy is because he has not yet been initiated to the 99 club. And the king was curious. He says, what's this 99 club all about? So the minister said, okay, let's show you how the 99 club works. So he takes this box and he puts 99 gold coins in the box and takes it one night and leaves it outside the servant's house. Next morning, the servant wakes up. He notices this box lying outside. He opens and he's surprised to find this suddenly discovered gold coins. And his wife suggests that let's count so that, you know, we make sure that we have an account of what we have. And to their surprise, they count 99. And now they are unable to figure out where that one missing gold coin is. So they search everywhere, they go around the streets, but they can't find the one missing gold coin. So the servant decides that he will make up, and he will make sure that he earns enough so that he can complete his collection to 100 gold coins. So he takes second job, third job, he works odd hours. He doesn't have time to sing, he doesn't have time to eat, he comes back late. And in a few days, when the king notices him, he's like worn out, tired. And then the minister says, now he's officially part of the 99 Club.
Yeah, interesting. So interesting.
Vladimir,
Yes, yes, Lakshman.
in line with what he was saying, I remember in the 90s, I was doing some work in India with AIDS. So I was in Delhi and going with a collaborator, one of these slum areas, walking through this narrow street, and these little children, 4, 5, 6, come up like, and they're smiling, jumping, like they've found heaven or something. They're just looking at a new face. But the amount of joy and happiness they had, and I'm thinking to myself, they're absolutely nothing to what you think would make them happy. They have, they're not even thinking of their future. They're not thinking about where they're living. They're living in that moment with 100% happiness. Where they were living in that moment. That moment is me, that all they can see is a new face, and they come say hello, and the jumping joy. But I think that nothing to be that happy, that joyous about, but that's all they knew, that they're living in the moment, and that moment gives them joy. That's all that matters.
Yeah, consciousness is present the same way there in that moment of time as anywhere else, in anybody else. It reminds me of the story from Pranab. Yeah, remember Pranab?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In his book on this, he writes about the story how he was walking near the ashram and he saw these poor children, two children, one bigger, one smaller, fighting for in the garbage they found. Somebody threw out the peel of this papaya, which had a little papaya on it, on the side.
Okay.
And so one bigger boy was beating the smaller boy, taking away from him that peel of papaya, and he was so angry with him. But then he saw this bigger boy crossing the street, and on the other side of the street there was a small baby girl sitting on the pavement. Yeah? And his face of this bigger boy changed and became full of love, from very angry face to full of love face. And he brought that small piece of papaya to that girl and gave to her that it was like a gift. And then Pranab says, I stopped judging people, because you don't see what is going to happen next. And so the consciousness, for example, in this case or any other case, I was giving the example of a gulag where the person was playing silent music on the table, and people swore that they heard the music. This is the great revelations of the consciousness, in the very small means. It doesn't matter what means we have, matters how great consciousness we can reveal and bring forward. And the smaller the means, the better the choice, I think. Sorry.
Vladimir, you may remember this part of the story from Lord Krishna's life when he goes to visit Sudama, his poor friend. And the poor couple is so nervous because they don't have anything in the house to offer him. And it is against their duty to be able to not, give a good meal to Lord Krishna when he visits. He's the king at that point of time. And he sees the couple in their dilemma, and he asks, what is it that is bothering you? And then Sudama's wife tells him that she doesn't have anything to give him to eat, and they are ashamed that they're not able to treat him to a meal. And Lord Krishna then says, let me look what you have. and he picks up an empty vessel in which there is one grain of rice. And he says, look, you have all that I need. In one grain of rice, I will find everything that I need to satisfy myself. And apparently he gives the vision to the couple that in that one grain, they can see all kind of food and all delicacies. So I think that's also symbolic to say that sometimes little satisfies more than what we need.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you are thirsty, you need water, and water is the most satisfying, yeah? And you're dying from thirst. By the way, with Sudama, there are beautiful stories there. When Sudama and his wife, they were so poor, and they were friends of Krishna because they grew up in the same ashram. So Sudama says, we will collect whatever we have. We make a nice rice. You take that rice to Krishna and just show yourself there and talk to him about our miseries, Sudama didn't want to do it, but then he took that rice, they boiled the rice and the last rice they had in the house. And he went to Krishna, and Krishna was the king. He was sitting on the throne. And Sudama entered, and he was very shy always. He never, claimed anything. He entered, and when he was coming to Krishna to the throne, there was something on the way, so he stumbled and he fell. And this rice fell on the floor everywhere. And Krishna saw it. He jumped, he ran, and he took all the rice and started to eat from the floor. Because it was the most precious offering. It was everything he had, he gave to him. It could not be lost. This is another dimension which we do not see in relations because we think about acquiring wealth, accumulating wealth. We do not see how consciousness works. These elements are more important than just the masses of things. And though, of course, everything has its place. Yes, I would not judge everything in one way, but consciousness is more important. Yes, these are beautiful stories which always uplift the soul, give some kind of hope for the vast and more luminous way of living. Yeah, I remember myself, I lived a very, very kind of, from the point of view of money, a very difficult life. But I don't remember the difficulty. Now, when I think from this point of view where I am now, it was impossible. How could I even survive with those means? But I don't remember that it was bad. I think it was wonderful. Everything was beautiful. With the smallest means, you can have a great life. And you can have everything and be quite miserable also. The opposite. You can be also happy with everything. It does not depend on what you have. It depends how you use it. What for? Great. Okay, we can maybe, if nobody else wants to share something, some interesting stories, it would be. Yeah, Siegfried.
Yeah, I think it's not the problem. It's not the desires. I think we can manage desires. Why not? The question is the power you give to the desire, because you can live with desires, but if you give too much power, then you lose the control of your life. But you can
Desiring the
manage this.
desire.
I love navigate with the desires because makes me dynamism. I'm feeling in full life, so dynamic.
Yeah.
But depends the power you give, then you lose the north.
Right. This kind of definition of desiring the desires gives me more sense of what it is. When you feel that you don't have the desires and you start desiring them, you want the desires to be part of your life. You want the desires to fill and fulfill you in some way. And that becomes a problem because then you substitute your, so to say, inner motivation of the inner being by the movements of the dynamism of nature. They may be good or bad, doesn't matter. Matters that you really don't live fully yet. Your your life is more instrumental, as it were. Of course, there is some enjoyment in everything because the divine, and how to say, as Sri Aurobindo says in Savitri, dared to step on the forbidden soil. You know, the bliss, the enjoyment came into the inconscient even. So you can find the delight in everything. Sri Aurobindo even exaggerates and says, even in being killed and in killing, you find the enjoyment. So um, because it is everywhere. So, but it is not really a full, how to say, a full spectrum or full depth of our being that we could experience in life. There is another being within which is waiting for its time. And if we don't give it place, of course, we will be driven by what is given, what is available. And as long as it is satisfying, it is needed. So the development is taking place in that realm. So I agree. Nobody is rushing it, nobody here. Yeah? But yes, you can also very well organize you don't give power too much to some movements of in your nature. You just are in control of them. You see what they do and how they, so you are becoming conscious being step by step. You know what you are managing, what you are achieving, what you're experiencing. And these experiences are needed for the soul to make decisions, what to do next and how to learn next. And until the soul learns all these movements, nitty gritties, it will not be ready to be free. So everything is totally fine.
I think always is a mental problem. It's not really like
Right?
what move the dynamism. If we put an example like a flower, right? What wants the flower? What wants the flower? She desires the light, and the bloom of the flower is with that wish, no, that desiring light. And then the process, the dynamic process of manifestation is with that impulse. And she can knows at herself through the impulse of the desire. Why not?
Okay, okay. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, that desire is aspiration to be what you are meant to be. That's great. Lovely. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Siegfried. Okay, then I will close here with mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santo Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Namaste.
Thank you, Vladimir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
See